there. Today we are going to build a single page website using Bootstrap 4. So this is an example of our finished site. This is a Southwest Veterinary Clinic, and we can see that it is mobile responsive. It drops down. We have our hamburger navigation, got icons, we have some cards, we have our Testimonials section, and then a footer to go with that. So we can jump to different areas of our site using that navigation. So single page web design. To get started, we're going to begin by creating our root folder on our desktop. So I'm going to just navigate over to my desktop and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name it Southwest Vet Clinic site. Now within that site, that root folder that I've established, I'm going to go ahead and create a couple folders for myself. So my first folder I'm going to name CSS. And then my next new folder that I'm going to create is just going to be labeled JS for the JavaScript. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy in the images that I'm using for this site. You'll find those images in your Blackboard folder. So let me just get to my, so then I'm going to copy my images folder into my site folder. So I have three folders here named CSS, images, and JS. So then I'm going to jump into brackets here. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to go ahead and just save that. So I'll do a file. I'll hit save as. I'm going to call this index.html. I'm going to save that right in my Southwest Vet Clinic folder here, right outside of all these folders. Save that. I'm going to create another new file. I'm going to save that as styles.css. I'm going to go ahead and save that in my CSS folder. Sorry, my CSS folder. I'm going to save that. Save. And then create one more new file here. I'm going to do a file, save as, and I'm going to save it as my scripts.js. I'm going to go ahead and save that into the JavaScript folder. Save. So now if I look at my root folder, I have my CSS in my CSS folder, my JavaScript file in my JS folder, and then there is my index.html. That's going to be my document for the site that we're creating. So let me jump back in here and grab my index.html. And I'm going to go ahead and get this set up with the Bootstrap 4 framework. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Bootstrap 4 itself. They have a quick start file for you. So if you go to getbootstrap.com and click on documentation, you can grab their starter template here, right here in their documentation starter template. I'm just going to hit copy, jump back into my HTML here and paste that in and save that. And you can see there's your basic template. So we're going to go ahead and delete the little bit of HTML in here. So let's get rid of that H1 tag. And then I'm going to change the title tag to being Southwest Veterinary Clinic. Save that, and then I can go ahead and start working on my site here. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my navigation. So inside the body tag, I'm going to create my header tag. And inside of that header tag, I'm going to go ahead and create my nav. So I'm going to have a nav. I'm going to give it an ID of Navbar site, a class of Navbar, Navbar dark, BG primary, and Navbar expand small. So Navbar expand small. Then inside there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create my Nav Bar Brand. So I'm going to create an A tag, and I'm going to give that the class of Nav Bar Brand. And I'm going to link that to featured. All right, Southwest. Then I'm going to create a span tag in here. So open that up a little bit. Create a span tag. Give that the class of subhead. All right, veterinary clinic. And then after this ending A tag here, I'm going to go ahead and create my unordered list. That's going to become my links. So I'm going to create my unordered list. That unordered list is going to have the class of Navbar nav. And then I'm going to go ahead and create my list items here. And that list item is going to have a class of nav item. And then inside that, I'm going to have a link here. So I'm going to create my link. So A, href, and that's going to go to featured. We're going to have that tagging the top of our page, featured. And that's going to go to the home page. So once I've got that little list item, I'm going to copy and paste these and then change some of that content. So I'll highlight the whole thing, copy it, paste, and the second one is going to go to mission. So it's going to go to hashtag mission. I'll say mission. Paste again. And this one is going to go to services. Paste again. This one is going to go to staff. And one more time for testimonials. There we go. So I'm going to save that, and I can see there is my my nav bar, and you can see my links are blue, so they're kind of hiding in there. We can go ahead and change this color. I'm going to change it so it's not primary. Let's make it success. That's fine. Now you can see there's all the links for that. So we're going to adjust that a little bit later. That's our basic navigation bar. So Now we're going to go ahead and place in the images for our carousel. So still within the header tag, but after the ending of that nav bar, I'm going to go ahead and insert the div for the carousel. We're not going to really style this up and make this work right now. We're just going to get the images placed so that way we can jump back at the end and get all the styling in. So I'm going to create my div, and it's going to have the class of carousel. And I'm just going to comment that out. So end of outer carousel, just so I know. And then I'm going to place in all my images here. So I'm going to create my image tag, source, go into my images file, and I'm going to locate all of my images that start with the name carousel. So I'm going to first start with the lifestyle one. I'm going to give that the alt of lifestyle photo. And insert another image here. And my state of the art. Alt tag is going to be state of the art. Bring in another image here. Source, images, and grab my vaccinations, alt, vaccinations, bring in another image, source, images, and I'm going to grab the fish. Alt is going to be fish. Another image. Source, images. And let me grab the exotic animals. Alt is exotic animals. And then last image here is going to be the mission photo. I'm just going to do an alt of our mission. There we go. So there's the images that I need for my my site. If I save that, you see I've got a bunch of really big photos here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to comment that little div out, just so I don't see it, but I'm going to leave everything in place so when I style up that carousel, it will all work out and I don't have to replace them, just so it's not I don't have to scroll down as I'm working on this. All right, so the next section we're going to make is our mission. We're going to go ahead and get the content in there for our mission section. So at the end of the header tag, I'm going to go ahead and create a new div, and I'm going to give it a class of container. I'm going to comment that out. All right, end of container. And open that container up here. And inside of that, I'm going to create a div. And that's going to have a class of content. The ID is going to be mission. So that's going to go to our navigation where we have that going to mission. And then inside that content container, I'm going to create another div, and I'm going to create a div with a class of content container. Inside there, I'm going to create my H2 tag. I'm going to write our mission. After that H2 tag, I'm going to create a paragraph tag, and in there I'm going to paste in the text for this out of the Word document that's on your Blackboard site called Southwest Vet Site Copy. This saves you from having to write all of this. So I'm going to just go ahead and open that Word document, highlight that Our Mission section, copy it here, jump back over, paste that in there. And I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting because I want to have 2 paragraphs here. So I'm going to create an ending so you can see from the Word document itself there's 2 paragraphs. So I want to have a paragraph end and a paragraph start right here at the We Strive. So I'm going to create a new paragraph tag there and then end this one right here. So that way you can see there's the ending tag for that one. So there's one paragraph and another paragraph. I also want to make sure, just to have good typography, I'm going to bring in a non-breaking space between the last 2 words of these paragraphs. That way I don't end up with any widows. So I'm going to create an ampersand, NBSP, non-breaking space, and put one in here too. So ampersand, NBSP, so non-breaking space. That way, if I save this, no matter how it goes, Healthy Life is always going to be together, and the word and cures is always going to be together. So there we go. There's our mission section. That looks great. Let's go ahead and create our staff section, or our service section. So at the end of this section for mission, I'm going to go ahead and create a new div for the services section. So at the end of this container for that mission section, I'm going to go ahead and create a new div, and that's going to have the class of page and an ID of services. I'm going to open that up here, and I'm going to go ahead and create my H2 entry. And that's going to just say services. And I'm going to create an article tag. And within that article tag, I'm going to go ahead and place in my image tag, source, and I'm going to source the icon out of my images folder for exotic pets. Locate icon exoticpets.svg. I'm going to give that the alt tag of exotic pets icon. And within there, I'm going to create my H3 tag, and that's going to be labeled exotic pets. And underneath that H3 tag, I'm going to create a new paragraph tag. And I'm going to jump back to my body copy here. I'm going to highlight that little sentence for exotic pets, copy it, and paste it right here in between that paragraph tag. Go ahead and save that. And that all looks pretty good, except I notice that I want to put this div inside my container, but outside of this mission container, but within my page container here, this page container, because you can see without that, that's going all the way as opposed to being kind of lined up with everything else. So I go ahead and save that. You see now that's going to line up a little bit better. And right now those icons are going to be huge. That's okay. We'll fix them in our CSS styling. So I'm going to continue with this formula here with these article tags for the remaining pieces in my services. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all of those out of my Word document here. I'm going to copy the whole thing. I'm just going to paste it right here after the article tag so I have it ready to go for me. And then I'm going to create another article tag here. Line these up a little bit better so I can see what I'm doing. And so I know my next one is grooming, so I'm going to create my image source. I'll locate my icon for grooming. There it is. Alt for grooming icon. Create my H3 tag here and my paragraph tag below it. And then I'm going to just cut out that title, paste it here, cut out this little piece of copy, and paste it there. Save it. There I can see I've got another one. And keep working my way down here. So create another article tag. Inside there I'm going to place my image source. Next one is general health. Icon health, there it is. Alt tag is general health icon. There we go. I'm going to write my H3 tag and then create my paragraph tag after that. And then just cut, copy, paste here. So cut out general health, paste it there, cut that piece of copy, paste it in there, save that. See, there's my next section, general health. Create another article tag. Inside there, I'm going to create my image tag. Find nutrition. And set the alt tag to being nutrition icon. Create my H3 tag. And then my paragraph tag. There we go. And cut nutrition. Paste. Cut this. And paste. Two more. Article. Image. Pest control here. Pest control icon. Here's my H3. And my paragraph. Cut that. Paste that there. Between my H3 tags. And cut out this little section here. Paste it in my paragraph. And last one here. Article tag. Place in my image. Source, vaccinations, alt tag of vaccination icon, create my H3 tag and my paragraph tag, and cut, paste that there, and go ahead and remove some of that extra space, save that, and you can see there's all of my services there. All my icons are in. That looks great. So the next step is going to be creating the staff section. So after the services section, we're going to go ahead and create the staff section. So I'm going to comment out the ending of this div here for end of services section. Just to help keep myself organized. You'll see you've got a lot of div tags in here. And then still within my container, I'm going to go ahead and create another div. And that's going to have a class of page and then an ID of staff. And then inside that, I'm going to go ahead and create my H2 tag, and that's going to say our staff. And this H2 tag is going to have an ID of our staff. Within here, I'm going to create a new div, and I'm going to give it a class of doctor. Inside that div, I'm going to go ahead and place in my image, source, images, and then I'm going to go and find the image of Dr. Winthrop. So I'm locating, there we go, there's Dr. Winthrop. Right, my alt tag is photo of Dr. Winthrop. And then underneath that, I'm going to create an H3. And that's going to just be titled Dr. Winthrop. And then after that H3 section, I'm going to create a paragraph section. I'm going to copy paste out of our staff section in here. So grab that whole section for Dr. Winthrop, copy, and paste it in there. And go ahead and save that. And you can see there's one really gigantic photo of the doctor. Zoom way back. It's still a really huge photo. There he is. There's the doctor. So we will be adjusting all of this shortly. Right now it's just a matter of placing content and getting it all written out, which is not really exciting, but it makes it go faster to get all of the sections in. So now that I've got this, I'm going to go ahead and copy this entire little div with the class of doctor. I'm going to copy that and then paste that in here. And then I'm going to change out my my doctor. So the next one is Dr. Chase. So this will be a photo of Dr. Chase. Swap out that photo. I'm going to change out the text here and just copy paste in the different text. So there's Dr. Chase. So you can see there she is. And I'm going to keep going in that same manner. So copy that whole div section, paste it, and then this one is going to be Dr. Sanders. Swap out the photo. And then swap out that text. Copy that whole section. And And the next one is going to be Dr. Gardner. And swap out that text. Copy, paste. The next one is going to be Dr. Ruiz. Copy that for Dr. Ruiz. Paste that in here. And one more. Copy that. Paste that in here. And this is going to be Dr. Wong. Grab that bio there. Change this to Dr. Wong. Change alt tag and then changing the photo. There we go. Save all of that, and then I can see I've got, here's all my photos of the different doctors, and that looks good. So the next section we're going to create is going to be the testimonials section. So after the end of this doctor section, here's my huge page section for that. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out. So comment end of staff section. I'm going to create a new div, and that is going to be for the testimonials. So div class of page, ID of testimonials, open that up, and I'm going to go ahead and create my H2 tag for testimonials. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and create a block quote. So there's my block quote element. This is going to have an ID of Jane H. Jane H. Inside here, I'm going to create a div with a class of quote. And I'll create my span tag. This span will have a class of intro. And within that span tag, I'm going to paste in the first sentence of that testimonial. So here's my first testimonial. I'm going to grab that first sentence, copy it, paste it in there. And then I'm going to create another span tag. After that one ends, I'm going to create another span tag, and that one's going to get the class of more because we're going to hide some of this longer stuff, so it's going to turn into a hover effect. So within that class of more, I'm going to go ahead and copy the rest of this, with the exception of her name. Copy that, paste that in there. I'm going to create one more span class down here, and that is going to have a class of customer, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and paste in the name of the person giving the testimonial. So Jane H is going to go ahead and go right in there. So you see there's three different sections for this quote. So I've got an intro, which is kind of that first sentence, more, which is the remainder of the testimonial, and then a span with a class of customer. So I'm going to go ahead and create and copy and repeat this whole formula again for the remaining 3. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole block quote, paste it in right down here, and I'm going to go ahead and do the next one, which is for the McPhersons. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the first sentence of this testimonial here, and I'm going to paste it into that first section. I'm going to change the ID to being McPhersons. Then I'm going to grab so the ID needs to change because we're going to go ahead and style these in a little bit. So I got the first sentence changed. Then I need to grab the rest of that testimonial, paste it in here, and then grab their customer name, paste it in here. There we go. So customer, the remaining of that. So then I've got my intro, more, and customer. Go ahead and repeat that again with that one done. Copy it, new block quote, and this one is going to be for John B. So I'm going to change that ID to being John B. I'm going to grab the first sentence of that, copy it, paste it in there, and then I'm going to grab the remaining of that, copy it, paste it in the more section, and then changing my customer, copy that, paste it in here. And then one more time, one last block quote, copy that whole thing, paste it, and doing the final one, which is Lorraine S. So this ID is going to change to Lorraine S. Copy that first sentence. Copy the remaining paragraph. And copy the customer. Save that. And now you can see here all my block quotes lining up in here. So there's my block quotes for the site. All of that's looking good. Now the last section we're going to do is adding in our footer section. So I'm going to comment out the end of Testimonials section. And then I'm going to create a new div, and I'm going to give it the the tag of footer. I actually need to place this outside of my container because I do want it to go full width. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that, place it outside of this container because I do want it to be a full width instead of going to the sides there. So container footer, inside that footer, I want to create a paragraph tag, and I'm going to write, call us toll free. that. I create a span with a class of phone. $800 555 for the most made up number 1212. After that, I'm going to create a little nav section. So I'm going to create a nav. Inside there, I'm going to create an unordered list, class of Navbar nav. Create my list items. That'll have a class of nav item. Create my A class of nav link. href is just going to be pound holder placement, pound placement holder. And then in here, I'm going to have terms of use. I'm going to copy that whole little list item here, paste it in, and this one is going to be privacy policy. And after the ending of my little nav here, it's still within my footer section. I'm going to create another little paragraph. And that's going to have a copyright symbol, so I'm going to do the ampersand copy. That makes the copyright symbol. 2018. Create a link here, href, pound placeholder, southwestvetclinic.com. All rights reserved. And save that. And then at the very end here, I will have my footer. So there's my all rights reserved all the way out. It's hard to see. So save all that, test it, make sure your images are working. And now our next step is to start styling this up, because right now it's looking pretty basic and pretty weird. Our images are kind of everywhere, so that would be our next step. All right, so the next step is to add in some simple styling to the services and staff section. So we're going to locate the section with the ID of services. So scrolling up towards the top, finding the services, and we're going to give the div here a class of content container. We're going to create another div and give it a class of content container. I'm going to wrap that all the way around. Here. So there we go. And comment it out. End of content container. So then, now that I've got that content container, I'm going to go ahead and after my h2 tag, I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to give it a class of row. I'm going to cut that row here. I'm going to place it at the end of that article tag here. So, and I'll comment that one out as well. End of row. And then for each of these articles in this service section, I'm going to go ahead and give them a class of COL SM4. So let me highlight that, copy it, and then I'm going to add that class to all of the articles here. And save that. And then you can see that that has made these kind of line up, so they now take up 4 columns each, so then I've got 3 icons per row. So let's go ahead and work with our staff section here. So I'm going to locate the section for our staff. We're going to kind of repeat that process, so I'm going to create a new div with a class of content container. And that's going to wrap all the way around everything. So cut that. And paste that in. And that'll be, I'm going to comment that out as well. End of content container. Scroll back up here after the H2 for our staff. I'm going to go ahead and place in a div with a class of row. And I'm going to cut that, wrap that all the way around everything here. So there's the end of that doctor section. Paste that here, comment that out, end of row. Just helps to keep you organized when you see this many ending div tags in a row. And then I'm going to add in a column section for each of these divs here. So I have the class of doctor, so then I'm going to add in COL SM4 to all of these. So I'm going to copy that, paste that in after each of my doctor. Paste that in, save that. And that's going to place everything. It's going to end up stretching those images really big. So we're going to need to adjust those images just a little bit so they don't quite look like that. So to make these pictures not stretched, I'm going to go ahead and add the class of IMG fluid to each of the pictures. So I'm going to write in class IMG fluid. And I will copy that class here, and I'm going to paste it into each of the image tags. And I'll save that. Give it a second to load here, and you see that the pictures now aren't super stretched. They appear a lot better in with the rest of this site. So the next thing to do is we're going to kind of repeat some of these same rows into our testimonials section. So I'm going to go down to the testimonials section here, and I'm going to create a new div. It's going to have a class of content container. That div is going to wrap all the way around here. So end of testimonials here. Paste that in. So end of content container. And then after my H2 tag, I'm going to create a new div with a class of row. Wrap that ending div all the way around here to the end of that content container. Comment that out, end of row. And then for each of these block quotes are going to get a class of COL SM6. So find my first block quote, and I'm going to go ahead and give that a class of COL SM6. Copy that, paste that here, and here, and there. Let's save that up here real quick, and then I can see that there are my testimonials now sitting kind of in that block area. And then the last step of this is I'm going to scroll down to my footer. Within my footer, I'm going to create a div with a class of content container. I'm going to wrap that all the way around here too. Save that. And then my footer is now contained within that container itself. Okay, so our next step is going to be working on some of our basic navigation up top here. So I'm going to scroll up to my navigation section, and within my nav bar, I'm going to go ahead and add the role of, within here, I'm going to go ahead and add in a role of navigation. And I'm going to adjust some of these classes. I'm going to set this to being Navbar Light. And remove the background primary here, just to remove that green color. It's not really doing us a whole lot of favors there. And I'm going to set this to expand on a medium size, just so you can see when we hit the toggle point here. So I'm going to put the unordered list here into a container so we can line up the navigation with everything else. So inside here, I'm going to go ahead and create a div with a class of collapse, and then Navbar collapse. I'm going to wrap that div all the way around the unordered list here. And then I'm going to place the tag for the Southwest Vet Clinic within that into a div with a class of Navbar header. So this right here is going to go into a div with a class of Navbar header. And that will wrap all the way around here. Save that. And that starts to line up some of those things. In order to move my navigation further to the right here, I'm going to go ahead and in my unordered list here, I'm going to go ahead in the nav bar nav, I'm going to set this to ML auto. And that should move that all over to the right side for me. To add in some additional styling to our nav bar, we're going to go ahead and make this fixed to the top. So I'm going to add in to my nav bar here, and that class is just going to be fixed top. And you'll see that that's going to move this up a little bit. We're going to adjust that in our CSS in a minute. A couple more things we need to do to fix some of these links the way that they're looking. I need to jump down into my list items. Within my A tag, I need to add a class of nav link. Copy that and paste that into each of these. And that will adjust my link colors. There we go, that looks much better. And then we need to add in our toggling icon so that at that small size when it drops down, it's visible. So to go ahead and do that, we're going to need we're going to need to create a button. So after our nav bar header, we're going to go ahead and type in the following code. So we're going to create a button, and that's going to be a type of button, class of nav bar toggler, the data toggle is collapse. The data target is going to be collapsible nav bar. And then within there, I'm going to create a span with a class of SR only. So a screen reader is only going to see this, and that's going to say toggle navigation. And then after that, I'm going to create another span, and that's going to have a class of Navbar toggler icon. And that will create the icon in that button for us. So if we go ahead and save this, you can see at that small size our button is appearing, and now we need to just target that toggle navigation or collapsible nav bar to our unordered list here. So let's go ahead and target that in our div with the nav bar collapse. Right here, we're going to need to set the ID to being collapsible nav bar. And that is case specific, so make sure that you're writing that correctly. However you do it in nav bar. And then I need to set the target to having, my data target needs to have a pound sign there. So let's go ahead and save that. Give this a second to refresh here. And then I can see there that's targeting that nav bar. And that's working correctly. So to adjust the padding so we no longer have this running over, we need to create a CSS role. And we also need to link our CSS to our site. So I'm going to jump over into that styles.css that we wrote earlier, and I'm going to write a rule that says body, and then set padding top to being 70 pixels. Save that, and then we're going to jump back over into our index here. It's not going to show it because we need to link it within our page. So I'm going to go up to the top within my head section, right after my link that's linking it to the Bootstrap CSS. I'm going to go ahead and create another link. The rel is style sheet, and then the href is going to go to my CSS folder, and then that styles.css. Save that, and then you see that's pulling that rule that we wrote in our styles.css. So whatever I write here is now linked to this document. So you see that that fixed our padding towards the top of our page, and we now have a much nicer looking nav bar. To style the footer layout, we're going to go ahead and scroll all the way down towards the footer here. We'll add some basic styling to that as well. I'm going to locate the navigation bar that I have down here, and I'm going to give that the class of Navbar, Navbar defaults, and a role of navigation. And within my unordered list here, where I have the Navbar nav, I'm going to also set that to ML auto to pull it to the right. I'm also going to style this into a, so let me save that real quick. I'm going to style this into a 2-column layout. Second to load everything, so that pulled those things to the right. So within my content container here, I'm going to go ahead and create a div, and I'm going to give it a class of row. And I'm going to wrap that all the way around here. So, and I'm going to go ahead and comment these out because that is helpful to me. So this is end of content container. And then this is the end of row. And in that row, I'm going to go ahead and create a new div with a class of COL SM6. And I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to wrap it around my paragraph tag here. And I'm going to grab my copyright down at the bottom. I'm going to cut that and place that into this as well. And I'm going to save that. And now that gives me that 2-column layout that I'm looking for. So within that same row, the last thing I need to do is I need to create another div with a class of COL SM6. I'm going to wrap that all the way around my navigation elements here, just so that lines everything up, and that looks much nicer. So I'm going to jump into my CSS here, and I'm going to add in a little bit of CSS styling for the footer. So I'm going to find my target my footer, target nav bar default, and inside there I'm going to create the rule for background of transparent. And that'll remove certain browsers will show that default color as a light gray versus a totally clear or white. So depending on which browser you're using, that should now appear transparent. So next step that we're going to work on is we're going to jump back into our index here, and we're going to work on creating our basic image carousel. So I'm going to scroll up towards the top of my site here, and locating those images that we grayed out. And let's go ahead and pull those comments out to make our carousel go live, and let's start to work on this. So if you remember that every carousel has two parts, they have an outer carousel and inner carousel. Let's go ahead and create that carousel. So after my div class of carousel, I'm going to create another div. It's going to have the class of carousel inner. And that inner carousel is going to wrap around all of the images. And so end of inner carousel. There we go. And now for the outer carousel, I need to add in some additional features here. So the carousel, I want it to be carousel slide, so that way the images slide. I'm going to set the data ride to carousel. And I'm going to set the ID to being featured. So now I need to take each of these pictures and place them within their own div tag. So it looks like this. I'm going to create a div, and that is going to have a class of carousel item. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that image and place it within that div. So what that should look like then is you've got your div, carousel item, ending div. So I'm going to wrap each of these images into there. So they'll have their own class of carousel item. Five of these, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole thing and paste it. Paste them out just to speed up my work here a little bit. So I'm going to cut that image, open that one up, paste that, cut this image, paste in there, cut this image, paste in here, cut that image, paste, and cut this one. And I did end up with one too many. Somehow I miscounted. Get rid of that extra one that I made. So that way I've got those divs wrapping all the way around each of my items. Now the item active needs to go on that first image. So my lifestyle image here, to make one show, I need to set that to active, carousel item active, and that should have that appear. If I save this, now we've got, there's my carousel images. That looks good so far. So, and you can see now that they're sliding. And the next step we need to do is code in some navigation for our carousel itself. So before the end of that outer carousel, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my navigation. So I'm going to set my A class carousel control prev href is featured, hashtag featured, data slide is prev in there. I'm going to create my span with the class of carousel control prev icon. So then I can grab that whole little thing for my previous icon, copy it, paste it, and then just change all the prevs to next. So this will be next, data slide is next, and the carousel control next icon. Go ahead and save that. And then I need to add in some CSS to make the image's size correctly. So I'm going to jump into my styles.css, create a new rule targeting the carousel inner img and set the width to being 100%, semicolon, and the height to being 100%. Save that. And now you see there are my carousel images. And I can control them right and left. So our next step is to customize some of our page styling. Right now we've got a pretty basic page, so let's go ahead and make some different styles. So we're going to adjust our fonts, and to do that we're going to go to Google Fonts. So just go to fonts.google.com. Of course. And so once you go into Google Fonts, we're going to use Open Sans and Roboto Slab. So I'm going to go ahead and search for those. So I'm going to search for Roboto Slab. And there I see one. And then I'm also going to search for Open Sans. And I'm going to add both of those. So when I have those, it's going to give me my little drawer here at the bottom, and I'm going to go to my @import code here. And I'm going to grab this little @import tag right there, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to jump into my CSS, and I'm going to pop it right towards the top because I like to keep my fonts up there. So there I can see that's going to grab my fonts for me. And then when I specify these in my CSS rules, here are my font families that I'm going to do. So to put those in, I'm going to place this right after. So within my body tag, after that padding of 70 pixels here, I'm going to go ahead and add the font family is going to be Roboto Slab. And then set the fallback to a sans serif, semicolon. Font weight is going to be 300. Font size is going to be 1 REM, and the position is going to be relative. So I'm also going to adjust the heading tags for this. So I'm going to create a new CSS rule and call out the H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. And set that font family to, I'm going to grab the Open Sans, so copy that there. Font family Open Sans or sans serif. I'm going to set the font weight to being 100 and the margin to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's jump over and look at, there's our site, and you can see in our site that all the fonts have changed to the Open Sans and then the slab font, which looks pretty nice. So let's add some more styling to our site here. Let's add some padding to anything with a page class. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new rule, target anything with a page class, and set the padding to 50 pixels by 0 pixels. So that's going to be 50 pixels on the top and the bottom and 0 pixels on the right and the left. And you see that just gives it a little more, you can see where that would drop that in. So I've got a little more space on the top and the bottom here. I'm going to adjust anything with an H2 tag now. So I'm going to target anything in the pages with an H2 tag and say that that text align is going to be center, and set the padding bottom to 10 pixels. So that gives me a little bit of space afterwards, and you can see how all those are now centering. Let me set that. So the next thing we're going to target is the header nav bar and put some padding in there as well. So I'm going to target the header nav bar and I'm going to set the padding to 30 pixels top and bottom and 0 on the right and left. Save that, so that'll give me a little bit more space. You see how that pushes that down a little bit. All right, we're going to keep styling our navigation bar here, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tag our header and our nav bar. And then it's going to be Navbar Light. And in there we're going to set the background color to being RGB 102, 51, and 0 at a 80% transparency, so 0.8. Semicolon, and set the border to none. Actually, I'll remove that nav bar light, that was messing it up a little bit. I've also adjusted the padding top to being 105 pixels. Actually, it might look better at 100 pixels just to give it a little bit of, so it's not totally running over all of this. And so targeting that nav bar. Then I'm going to start targeting some of the link colors. So I'm going to open that up here. I'm going to target the header, Navbar light, Navbar link, Navbar nav, and then .nav link. I'm going to set that color to being white. And the padding to being 5 pixels by 8 pixels. I'm going to set the hover color, so set the header, Navbar light, a hover. I'm going to set that color to being pound EEC 856. I'm going to give that the important flag so it overrides the Bootstrap defaults, and that'll give me a nice yellow color when you hover over it. I'm also going to target the header, Navbar light, target the active link. I'm going to set that font weight to being 700 and also give that the important flag to override that. I'm going to start adjusting the Nav Bar Brand here. So I'm going to target the header, Nav Bar Brand, and I'm going to put in our logo here. So I'm going to target the background URL, background, colon, URL, parentheses, and then it's dot slash, and that'll pull up my images folder. I'm going to locate the Southwest Pet logo.svg, semicolon there, and then set the background repeat to no repeats. Background position. To being 15 pixels by 0, and then set the height to auto. Now I'm going to target the header here again, the Navbar lights, Navbar Brand. I'm going to set the color to being white. Give that the important flag as well. Semicolon. Margin is 0. The font size is going to be 1.6 REM. REM standing for relative M's. Font weight is going to be 400, and the padding left is going to be set to 105 pixels to move it over. And then I'm going to target that subhead that we did for our branding, so I'm going to say header .navbar brand, targeting the span and the subhead. I set the display to being block. Font family is going to be the Open Sans or our sans serif as a backup. There we go. Font size is going to be 0.6 em. And font weight is 100. And so now we're gonna, now that we've got that, let's save that and take a look at how all of that looks so that I can see Southwest Veterinary Clinic. I can see our logo popping in here, our colors here. That all looks pretty good. So I've got our fixed nav bar with a little bit of color, but you can still see behind it. All of that's looking really nice. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to target that to the hamburger menu button here. And so I'm going to target header, nav bar, toggler. I'm going to set the background color to being white. And then that should give us a nice white button there. And I may set a little bit of a padding on that button as well and say, let's do padding right, 25 pixels. Nope. Margin right, padding, margin right, padding made the button bigger, margin right of 25 pixels just to put that a little bit away from the edge, and so that gives a little more space. That looks really nice. So there we have it. The site isn't totally done yet. We've still got a little bit more to work on, but here's some of the basics down for our first site. We will finish this up in the second video, so thank you for watching and have a good day.